Hello, welcome to today's class. Today we're going to reproduce that figure you're seeing at the right corner of the screen by applying the principle of tangency. If you look that figure closely, it looks somehow complicated, but today I will produce the simplest way for you to understand how to construct or produce out that figure. Now, my first task here is to draw a horizontal line, right? Let's see, yes, horizontal line this way, right? I have this horizontal line. Next up, if you observe closely, I need a vertical line. So draw a vertical line this way, vertical line this way. So I have this. This is my horizontal line, vertical line. My first task is that, as you can see my arrow indicating, there is an height of what? Of a 12 upward. So I'll measure 12 into my meter rule. That is from this point here to this point. It's 12, right? So where that point, you can see the point, I will draw a horizontal line, long one, short one, long one, short one, long one, short one, long one. So I have this, right? What is my next approach? If you observe closely, from this point you're seeing, there's two circles in the left and perhaps in the right. Those two circles are gotten such that the two circles are meeting, are consigned in with this straight line, right? They are consigned with this what straight line. So how do I produce that two circles? My first task is what? Get the dimension of the circles. The circle is going to be what? Diameter of 50, as you can see my arrow indicating. So I know that 50, it simply means the height that I'm going to move now is 50, right? So what I just need to do now is just take my meter rule, measure out half of 50, 25. At this point here, strike an arc this way. Where the arc cut this point here, draw a vertical line. Sorry, horizontal line. Right? Draw horizontal line. Long one, short one, long one, short one, long one, short one, long one, short one, long one. So I have this. So I have to produce out this is point here. Now, if you observe closely, that same 25 I used to go from this point to this point, right? I'll put that same 25 here, strike an arc here, right? So before I do that, please, before I do this, I haven't considered all this. Next step is that if you observe, there's an angle of what? 30 degree. You consider angle. I'll take this span this way. At this point here, draw this 30, right? That's 30. Take it this way backward. I have under 30 this way. So this from here to here is 30, and from here to here is 30, right? I have 30, 30. So what do I do after I have produced out my 30, 30? My next task is that if you observe closely, there's an angle of what? 15 somewhere around there. So how do I get my 15? I will bisect 30. If you don't know how to bisect angle, you can click on that link you are seeing in front of you, or check in the description. You know how to bisect angles. So I can just place my pin at this point here, extend it somewhere here, draw a faint line this way. Now at this point where it touches here, right? So it touches this point and this point, right? So just any result of choice, take it here, strike an arc, one, come to this point here back, two, I mean two. Where it meets is at this point. At that point I will draw a vertical line, sorry, an inclined line rather, from this point here to this point, this way, right? So this is 30, this is 30, and this from here to here is 15. So we have to definitely what? Reproduce out those angles. Next task, let's now draw the circle. How do we draw the circle? Now, we have produced out, we have measured the height of what? 25, right? We draw this. Now, where that inclined line we have drawn, I mean that this 30, 30 we have drawn, that's where the first circle will be, and the second circle will be. So I will measure 25 on my meter rule, right? At this point here, rather, I will draw the circle 25, right? So take it this way. At that point, draw a thick circle. Make sure it's thickened. There's the first one. Now that the second one, come to the second angle, 30 that I've drawn here. Connect it together this way. Right? So I have this after the connection. We have created another two circles. So what do you observe again? If you observe closely, there's a smaller circle inside it of what? Diameter of 22. So I measure what? 11. 11. From here to here is 11. At this point here, draw a thick one. At this point here, draw a thick one. So we have successfully produced out these two circles here, right and left and right. Now, if you observe closely, this line, this 30 degree you are seeing, there's one circle that falls at the top here. So how do I get that circle? Simply measure what? 95. As you can see, my arrow indicating that arc from this place that crosses this place. So measure 95 from this point here to this point is 95. So at this point here, cut 30 degree. This inclined 30 degree I've brought, just cut it. So where it's cut is at this point, right? Is at that point. So at that point that it's cut, I will draw an horizontal line, right? Draw horizontal line this way. So I draw horizontal line. So I need this point, the center point we have drawn initially, and the other 30 degree at this part. That is where I'm going to, those three circles you are seeing are indicating. The first one, the second one, and the third one. That's the center point. So now, what do I do? If you observe the dimension given, they say 3 boxes, diameter 25, drill, diameter 12. The drill simply means the smaller circle, while the box means the bigger circle at that point. Now, the first one is 25. So half of 25 is what? 12.5. Right? So I measure 12.5. So from this one to 12.5. At this point here, draw circle this way. At this center point, draw that same circle because they're the same dimension, right? Similarly, at this point here too, draw the circle of that same measurement. So given below, so I have this, right? I have this. So my next procedure is that the smaller circle is what? Given to be what? Diameter of 12. So measure 6. From this point here to this point is 6. So at this point here, draw the circle of 6. Similarly, at this point here, draw the same circle of 6. And at this point here, same circle of 6. So we have produced out the first, second, third, fourth, fifth. It's made one circle somewhere up here. That circle, the center is from what? That angle of 15, right? So we're going to measure what? There's an arc that comes through this point and goes of radius what? 128. So measure 12.8. 12.8 is from this point here to this point is 12.8, right? I'll put at this point here. I will now cut 15. So because this is from here to here is 30. So this is my 15 here. I mean, this is 30 degree. This is 15 degree. Right? This is also 30 degree. So take note of those dimensions there. Now, where the arc cuts this point is here. That is where that circle, that last circle will be. So if you observe that circle is given to be what? The diameter of 32 and the drill of what? 16. So 32 divided by 2, I will have 16. So measure 16. 16 from this point here. 16. This 16. Right? At this point here, draw the circle this way. Right? That's 16. Similarly, that same point, I have a drill of what? Diameter of 16. So measure what? 8. Here's my 8. At this point here, draw a circle this way. The circle this way. So I have this. We have produced out all the circles at each point. So what do I do next? What do I do next? My next task is that if you observe closely, there's some arcs that are connected to all these points, right? All these points. So now let's produce out those arcs, right? So my first task here is that this whatever I use for these two, to draw these arcs here, I'm going to do something else because they have the same dimension, right? The arc connecting this one is also the same thing as the arc connecting this one, 32, 32, right? So what I would do, my first task is what? The diameter of this one, this bigger circle is what? That's 25. We use 25 to draw this, right? So 25 plus 32. 32 plus what? 25. Why are we adding? Because that arc is what? An external arc. We need to add. So I'll measure 57 to this point 57. I'll come to the center point, this one here. I will strike an arc this way. Similarly, come to this point here too. Strike an arc this way. Alright, that's my first task. My second task is that let me just extend this way in case. My second task is that this smaller circle here has a dimension of what? Radius of what? Radius of 12.5. So 12.5 plus what? Plus 32. 32 plus 12.5. I have 44.5. So 44.5. I'll measure out 44.5. So this point 44.5. At this point here, I will simply cut the arc, and at this point here, I will cut the arc. So where the arc meets is at this point, this first point here. So at that point, I will gauge it. Alright, I will gauge it. So I will gauge it. Gauge it. I'll gauge it. So I gauge it. I have this. Right. I have this. That's my first arc. Next up, where they meet at this point here too, I will gauge it. So I'll close it together. So gauging it, I have this. You can see I have this. So I've drawn two arcs, right? Next up, there's an arc, an external arc at this point. It's consumer arrow indicating the dimension there is going to be what? Radius of 25 is that external arc here. So I'll simply add what I used to draw this bigger circle here, which is what? 12.5. So 12.5 plus 25, I will have 37.5. So measure 37.5, 37 0.5 at this point here. Come to this point here, strike an arc upward, right? Strike an arc upward this way, right? Let me show you what I'm doing. So there's some arcs here. Just erase it so that I can see what we are doing well. So at this point, strike an arc, right? Similarly, come to this point here and cut the arc. Where the arc cuts is at this point. So at that point, I will simply gauge it to touch the 2 points, right? To touch the 2 points, so I will have this. You can see we have reproduced out the arc at this point. Let me just clean out this arc so that to avoid confusions. So just clean out this. So I have this. Next up, there's an arc connecting this place too. If you observe closely, right? If you observe closely. So what I use for these two to draw this one and this one, that I'll use for this one too. So just come to this point here. Extend your pin of compass to this arc you have drawn here. So come to this point here. Take it down. One, this way. Right? Similarly, what we use to draw the arc of this, come to this point here. To cut this arc here. Right? Come to this point here and cut this arc. So where the cut is at this point, where they meet here. Similarly, I will what? Join them together. Right? I will join them together this way. So I have this. Right? I have this. So next up, there's an arc from this point here. Just extend your pin of compass to this point here, at the edge point here, and taking this part here. Make sure this ones here are faint. Just taking smaller distance. Right? So next up, there's an arc at this point. Right? So the diameter of this bigger circle here, that I used to draw this bigger circle, was what? Was 16. So 16 plus 22 as the arc. So 22 plus 16, I have 38. So 38 from this point to this point, 38. At this point here, strike a faint arc. Next up, this circle here has a dimension of 12.5. This bigger circle, I used 12 to draw it. So 12.5 plus what? My arc given to the what? 22. So 12.5 plus 22, I have 37.5. So 37.5 from this point to this point. I will place it at this point here and cut the arc. Where the arc cuts is at this point. Where they intersect, I will now gauge it. I will gauge it, right? I will gauge this point here and this point together. So I'll have come in, make sure you gauge it well. So gauge it well. Stick it this way. So that is the other arc at this point here. So similarly, next arcs, I have successfully produced out all the arcs, right? So next arc is the arc at this point, right? So that arc has a what? This of what? 32. So I'll simply add diameter here is going to be what? 32. So half of it 16. So 16 plus 16 plus diameter of that is going to be, the rest of there is going to be what? 32. I will have 48. Measure 45, 6, 7, 8, 48. From this one to this point, 48. Right? So at this point here, strike an arc up somewhere here. Up somewhere here. Next up, I need to measure out 32 again. 32 to this point here. Place it anywhere on this line here. Anywhere on that line. Cut it. Where they meet is at this point. So I will simply connect them together, right? Or connect the points together, right? So do that. I'll be having this. You see, similarly, I can just come to this point, extend it to close up this way. So we have successfully replicate what you're seeing at the right corner of the screen, right? Let's thicken out this. Make sure it's thicken out as well, thicken, right? So we have successfully draw what is at the right corner of the screen to be what you're seeing in front of you. If you have found this class helpful, do not forget to click on the subscribe button and like. Thank you and welcome to WiseLink Academy. Thanks for watching.